Hello, everybody. Welcome back to JK Productions. Today, I'm trying something a little bit differently. Some of you might be watching this on YouTube. Hopefully, I look pretty enough. Donovan, we all know, doesn't look pretty enough, as always. But when based off that, Donovan is back on the show today. But today, I am trying something a little different. I've been recording everything, putting it on Spotify so far, and I've enjoyed that. And I'm going to continue to do that. Still going to upload the audio file over there. However, today, I want to test how things are on YouTube. So, maybe you're seeing this on YouTube if it goes well. Maybe you're not going to see this on YouTube. I'm not 100% sure yet. Depends on how everything goes. But today we have a few good things to talk about. But first, let me reintroduce my guest here today, making his fourth appearance on the show. Donovan, our expert Dolphins fan, on the show today. How you doing today, bud?
I'm doing great, especially with the recent hire Miami has made. I'm doing fan-freaking-tastic.
Yeah, it was about time. It took a long time, may I say. It was about 2 weeks since we fired Brian Flores. Almost exactly 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks today since we fired Brian Flores. And late last night, we finally
still kind of heartbroken.
Yeah, and he's still out there.
I texted you all of Sunday morning too. I'm like 7:30 a.m. So I haven't hired anyone. We should be worried.
Generally the first thing I do when I wake up is I see if Haley texted me, my girlfriend, but no, you beat her to the punch. You beat me to the punch. You woke up and decided to text me. Yeah, like you said, 7:30, haven't hired. 7 or 8:30, haven't hired. I was like, geez, this is going to go on all day. But yes, it finally got over the line, which will be the first thing that we talk to you guys about, give you guys our thoughts. And then, of course, we have the Super Bowl. Donovan's going to share his opinions. I'm going to share my opinions, who we think's going to win or lose. We haven't actually discussed this, so I'm very interested to see what your thoughts are on who's going to win the game.
I do have some interesting thoughts.
I'm sure you do just as much as I do. So we'll get into that. Also, we're not able to, or I was not able to talk about the Brian Flores issue last week when I was on FAU Owl Radio. Mid-show was when all the news was breaking about Brian Flores. So I started talking about there on FAUOwlradio.com a little bit. However, more and more information came out after the show. And, now we have a bigger picture. We now have a more clear understanding as to what's going on, and NFL is starting its investigation. So interesting to see how that goes. However, we are going to talk about that, maybe talk about the Heat. Who knows? Did we discuss anything else we're going to talk about?
No, I think you covered about everything.
Okay, so I think that's everything. The wildly produced show this is, me with no notes here. That's why I have no idea what we're even going to talk about. So first things first, the Miami Dolphins finally hired their head coach. We secured the signing of Mike McDaniel yesterday, the offensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers. Shortly after that announcement was made, I made a little post over on Instagram with my thoughts about it on my JK Productions Instagram account. And Donovan, before we get your thoughts, I'm just going to say I love the hire. He wasn't my first choice hire, which I know you to be fair to you, Donovan, he was your first choice hire. You've been texting me for, pretty much ever since Brian Flores was fired that you wanted Mike McDaniel as our next head coach, and definitely wasn't against that. But for me, Brian Daboll was the number one candidate, had already worked with Tua. He pretty much fixed Josh Allen's game and now has turned Josh Allen to an elite quarterback. Obviously, he goes to New York, so that's out of the picture. However, I'm very happy with what Mike McDaniel brings to the board. First of all, last year, going back to a year ago when the Dolphins were looking for an offensive coordinator, Mike McDaniel was still the running backs coach or run game coordinator with the San Francisco 49ers. And I heard a little bit about him. And just based off that, I was like, this young guy, he's followed Kyle Shanahan around. Maybe he's worth bringing in as offensive coordinator. And obviously, in hindsight, definitely would have been worth bringing in as offensive coordinator based off the state of our offense and based off the state of the offenses that he has not necessarily been in charge of, but assisted in over the years. And the work he's done with the run game over there in San Francisco, the ability to plug and pull pretty much anybody in. They had two rookie running backs this year. Of course, Eli Mitchell got the large share of the carries there. So he's deserved this head coaching job. He's young. However, he does have a lot of experience in the NFL. 15 years as the NFL assistant is no small amount of time. He looks very young. I would ID him as a cashier at Publix. Like, the dude looks really young. And, some other slightly like good news is, the Dolphins back-to-back minority head coaches, the first minority head coaching hire of this head coaching cycle, which is something we'll get into later with the Brian Flores fiasco. However, I'm very, very happy with this hire. And I know, Donovan, you are too. Please share with us your thoughts on the hiring.
Honestly, I just love the hire overall. When you look at what he has done, he hasn't really had any stars over at any place he's been. He has Jimmy G. He turned Debo into a star. He's worked with Kittle, turned Kittle into a star. Now, both of those are athletic monsters and with great athletic ability, great catchability, and he turned them into what they can be. But as far as the run game, going back to the run game with two rookie running backs, like you said, Elijah Mitchell going in there, and he was probably the best rookie running back out of every team in the NFL, really. And he used Debo back there a lot as well. And he called himself the wide back at the Pro Bowl because he played wide receiver and running back throughout the year. Sometimes some games having more rushes than he had catches. And just how he's done everything so well. And you listen to him talk, he is so sophisticated. And contrary to what some people believe, he's not going to just copy a system like San Francisco or the Jets, who have the old San Francisco offensive coordinator. He's not going to do that. He's going to work the system around the players that he has. That's what he's always done. That's why San Francisco's offense was so efficient, especially with all the starters there, which they rarely had all the starters at one time because Kittle missed most of the year. Debo missed a couple games. Jimmy G missed a couple games. Like they were consistent and efficient. And from what I'm hearing, Mike McDaniel is welcoming back the defensive side of the ball, especially Josh Boyer and Gerald Alexander. So with having those guys in place already and having a stellar defense, the defense ranked number 2 over the last 9 weeks of the season. So having that with an efficient offense, because we both know that offense was not efficient at any point throughout the year. It had a couple good games, and that was it.
Yeah, for Miami, we struggled so mightily on offense last season. That was the main issue and arguably one of the facts that, or one of the aspects that led to Brian Flores being eventually fired. He never could figure out the offense, gave 2 of 4 different offensive coordinators in 3 seasons. And there was very little creativity. We tried the trick plays in the first year and little trick plays on special teams. However, that's not necessarily creative. But that is, you're just looking to deceive based off of just a kind of shock factor, unexpected things to happen. However, to truly have a creative offense, you have to know what the strengths of your team are, and you have to know what the defense is playing for. And I mean, I'm sure you saw, and some of you guys listening saw the interview where he was explaining why they toss the ball just to run it straight up the middle, or even toss counter sometimes. And he was giving a very elaborate answer as to why the defenses, they start to shift one way, they start to expect one thing, so you hit him immediately with the other thing. And he's young. However, clearly he has a grasp of the offense, and especially in this modern NFL, we saw with San Francisco what he was able to do with Deebo Samuel. I'm really excited to see a guy like Lynn Bowden Jr., who missed the entirety of last season due to injury. He was a small spark 2 years ago when he did play. Obviously, he is limited. That's why he was a 3rd rounder and then traded from Las Vegas. However, there is talent there. And if you can give him the ball in space, if you can put him in the backfield, you can do some things with him that Mike McDaniel did with Deebo Samuel. So I'm very intrigued to see what he does there. And I'm very intrigued to see if we keep this running back core that we have. There are going to be some free agents, Gaskin, Duke, and Lindsey. That's a good enough running back core that we saw really pop off at the end of the season. Mike McDaniel, like I said, he was the run game coordinator at one point. So to build that offensive line for that running back core, I'd be very happy to do so. I don't necessarily want to see us go out and spend a lot of money on a big name running back. I'd rather see us spend money on the offensive line, and I really think he can help develop this offense.
100%. And to piggyback off of your Lynn Bowden thing, in college he played quarterback, running back, and receiver. And I think we also used him a couple times in the return game when Grant was struggling holding onto the ball.
Like he
And
always does.
okay, look, let's enough Grant slander
I
for
said
the day.
one thing. Come
I
on, grow
know
up. He sucks.
he's an All Pro and a Pro Bowler, so he doesn't suck that much.
Return specialist.
Return specialist. That's once he gets the hands in his ball.
Pause. Pause.
Pause.
Pause.
uh, Once he gets his hands on the ball, you got to watch out because he can make something spectacular happen. Similar things with Lynn Bowden, in my opinion, although he is way more sure-handed. And just going to him and using him as that kind of weapon is going to be amazing. And another thing I loved about Mike McDaniel when he's breaking down those defenses, you saw him explain why run game is so important when you have against a two high safety look versus single high safety. It's just if people are the defense is able to play two high safety with two corners and stop the run, then they're gonna bully you all day on defense. That's kind of what the Dolphins like to do, and that's what happened to the Dolphins. Dolphins quite often offensively also. So, and that was one thing I liked over Brian Dable was because Brian Dable, I haven't really seen him have much success outside of what he's done with Josh Allen. He did coach for Alabama that one season, but once again, Alabama's Alabama. They're gonna do their thing. And I wanted I didn't really see I loved Brian Dable and I thought he could put together a great staff, which he's doing right now for the Giants. But I don't think that I think Mike McDaniel can do the same thing over here. Once again, we have a great defensive side of this side of the ball. So our staff can stay, especially if he welcomes it. If he welcomes it, that's all the more better. And he can go and get a better special teams unit because let's face it, that was just going downhill fast for the Dolphins with Danny Crossman. And I mean, Matt Pilardi was a huge issue in that part. We can both agree on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was just horrible. I blame Ross. Just blame everything on Ross.
It's easy enough. He's done so much that
Yeah,
you just lump all the rest of the issues on him.
exactly. But offensively, if he can get, his guys or even he's the kind of guy that's going to bring in the best person for the job. He's not going to sit there and be buddy bringing guys that he knows, like former coach Adam Gase kept bringing in people that he knows that he was familiar with and he worked with before and brought in no one else and wondered why that team imploded. His first season when he brought in other people that he hadn't worked with before, like Vance Joseph, that defense was elite. And he brought in offensive line coach, which ended up being a coke addict.
I forgot
That
about that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was our 2016 offensive line coach.
I
And halfway
completely
through,
forgot about that.
dude, we had a really good staff in 2016, and then 2017 when Tannehill got hurt again, and we lost Vance Joseph, we lost that offensive line coach. We also switched offensive coordinators. Like it just kept going down for Gase, and then he got personnel control, which was a total shit show. And I gotta say, as far as like personnel control with Greer, he's done a pretty decent job. I'm not gonna say he's been spectacular. I'm not gonna say he's been horrible. I think one of the reasons that we didn't really have that spectacular of a roster last year is because they all collectively wanted to go and get Watson. So
Right.
they had to dismantle the roster a little bit. I actually argued with a couple people on Twitter over this. We got rid of Flowers. We got rid of Ted Karras. That hampered our offensive line greatly this offseason because we had to move Kinley to left guard. Or they also wanted Hunt to be a Pro Bowl right guard. He's supposed to be a Pro Bowl right guard. So they moved him from right tackle to right guard, put Jesse Davis at right tackle. He was horrible. Dieter's improved every game at center, but he never played center before this year. Left guard, we moved Kinley, but Kinley wasn't as good at left guard as he was right guard. It's a different side of the ball, so he's not using his strengths on. It's like you're playing opposite. So if you're right-handed and you're trying to play left-handed, it's completely different. And then Austin Jackson, just who knows what happened to him between last year and this year.
The guy fell off a cliff. And the good thing is we have so much money that we can spend. And
100%.
The main guy we haven't covered that we do definitely need to talk about is Tua, because
yes,
the reports have came out that Mike McDaniel tried to convince his way into saying like, hey, I think we could win with Tua. And that was kind of his main selling point to the team and kind of probably got him the job at the end of the day, because we know that the organization has decided to stick with him. And we heard the fact that they had like a 10-hour long interview.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Where he was pretty much just trying to sell the fact that he could win with Tua. And we've sat here before and both have said that we think that the Dolphins should probably move off of Tua. But if Mike McDaniel can make Tua work, it's definitely interesting because we have $70 million of cap space to spend. We don't have the best first round pick. We have our 2 firsts next year. However, if you can spend that money wisely, if you can draft wisely, Chris Greer didn't have the greatest draft 2 years ago. Last year had a phenomenal draft. We don't have quite the draft equity at the top of the draft like we did last year. However, if we can,
we do have 2 next year.
We have 2 next year, but I'm more talking about this year.
Yeah, but he can trade, and
we could. I mean, I wouldn't actually be opposed to trading back and getting another first round pick next year and having 3 firsts next year, because the 29th draft pick isn't the best draft pick in the world. So if we could do that, I think that'd be great. But this is the year for Tua. Tua gets the offensive mind, gets the young offensive mind that we've seen work around the NFL. I mean, the Super Bowl that we're going to break down in a few minutes, we're seeing Sean McVay in his 30s or early 40s. We're seeing Zach Taylor in his late 30s. 2 young offensive minds that have their quarterback, have that offense figured out, and that's what's got them to the Super Bowl. Whereas Miami recently has tried to make it work on defense in 2 back-to-back, missing the playoff seasons where we were so close. However, the offense was what held us back. So if we're able to build that offensive line, figure out the running game, getting another weapon, maybe like a Mr. Calvin Ridley, I think Mike McDaniel.
I agree with that.
I think Mike McDaniel can really make this team succeed. He's only 38 years old. However, he's a sharp guy. He went to Yale. Just listening to speak about how offenses work, how ideas for his offense work. He has an understanding. This is a different time in the NFL. It used to be where, you would never take a shot on a young head coach, especially after head coaches like Lane Kiffin failed. However, as I previously stated, that is what's working. And, Miami's gone out and gotten their guy, Mike McDaniel, 38 years old. He's young, but he has a whole bunch of experience. And I really hope he ends up truly being the guy, because our last, 3 or 4 head coaches only lasted 3 or 4 years. Flores, we shouldn't have fired in the first place, but we did. So,
that was collaboration issues,
which we'll talk about the Brian Flores issue at the end. But I'm really happy Dolphins got their guy. I'm really hoping that this guy ends up working, fixes the offense up, and just helps us succeed moving forward. So
can't get much worse than it already is offensively. I'm just hoping defensively we stay the same. Obviously, it's not going to be that great, or I don't want to say obviously. I have suspicions about how good the defense is going to be without Flores there to kind of have his finger in it.
Yeah, the second half of the year, he had more control over the defense than Josh Boyer had. If McDaniel doesn't look to retain the staff, which we know as things stand, he is, a guy like Vic Fangio is out there that you could bring in on defense. And what we've seen with McVay out in Los Angeles, he brought in Wade Phillips, a older defensive minded guy to come in and help the defense. So a young offensive-minded guy, you bring in an older defensive guy. We've seen it work. I would really like to see Mike McDaniel, almost called him Kyle Shanahan. Mike McDaniel do the same, bring in a Vic Fangio, or if he likes to stick with Josh Boyer and the defensive crew we already had. We've seen the success with it. Hopefully that can continue. But moving on to the game,
Super Bowl,
the most important game of the year. It's all led up to this. And before we get into the Super Bowl, man, how disappointing is it to have to watch the Pro Bowl every year right before the Super Bowl?
it is honestly crazy. I told you I think they should, because they were practically two-hand touching each other.
Yeah.
At least last year they wrapped each other up. Like no one really tackled last year, but at least they wrapped them up. They were playing two-hand touch this year. And in my opinion, I think you should just make it a flag football game. You did point out that the problem with that is that what are the offensive linemen going to do? But my point was, what are they doing now?
Yeah.
Like
they kind of just stood there.
Yeah, they didn't block each other. The defense didn't rush. They just kind of played laterally, rather than up and down the field. I mean, given most of the players did that throughout the game anyway, but
yeah, and the edge rushers, the defensive tackles were pretty much just playing contain. They weren't seriously rushing anybody because you don't want to be the guy that tears Mahomes ACL in the Pro Bowl.
Exactly.
In a meaningless game. I do have a somewhat solution, and it's completely different. Instead of having a Pro Bowl, that last game before the Super Bowl, instead of it being the Pro Bowl, make it a competition of the worst team and the second worst team, and the winner gets the number 1 overall pick. What do you think?
I love it. That's never going to happen, but I love it.
It's a great idea, because the issue with the Pro Bowl is it just takes such the momentum.
Incentive.
Well, that's why it takes so much momentum. Why these guys don't want to be there. They don't really care. They're just there to hang out with their boys, hang out with some of the people they know, meet some new people. But when they actually step on the field, it's nobody. Like there was maybe one tackle yesterday where somebody actually got tackled to the ground. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, it was Micah Parsons, I believe, tackled someone.
He tackled Mahomes.
And then you had Stephon. Now I kind of like this one, but Stephon Diggs playing DB, covering his brother Trayvon Diggs, who is a corner playing wide receiver. That's some stuff that I like about the Pro Bowl. However, it's still just it's not like baseball, where baseball, the winner of the All-Star game gets home field advantage in the World Series,
which is kind of ridiculous too if you think about it. But at the very least, it adds some incentive.
It's an incentive. I'm not really sure how hockey works, but in the NBA, I like they're putting on a show now. It's not really too much defense there, but at least there's dunks and everything else, not every single quarterback throwing an interception by overthrowing the wide receiver by 10 yards.
And the incentives for the NBA is for charity. So they do have some reason to fight.
I didn't know that. I did not know that. Both
sides, no matter what, each side, their charity gets money donated to them. However, the winner gets more. I'm not sure if that's still how it was. I know at one point that's what it was. We'll see if that is how it is for this year. But if that's in the back of your mind, and if you see it's a close game, they actually go out and try to win at the end. And I think things got a little testy at the end of the game last year or 2 years ago. So that would make things more interesting. Again, I think my idea is I shouldn't say it's my idea. I saw it on the All Sports Culture Instagram page where they posted that idea. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. Like you said, that's probably never going to happen. And we're going to be subjected to watch another terrible Pro Bowl game year after year after year, which just deadens the mood of the Super Bowl. However, we still have the Super Bowl to play, and that is going to be a week from today, where at 6:00 on Sunday, the Cincinnati Bengals are taking on the Los Angeles Rams. Second year in a row that we see the home team play in their own stadium, which is just absolutely absurd that we've never seen it before. Now it happens the back-to-back seasons. There was talks of the game getting moved to Dallas because of LA County's COVID restrictions. However, that seems to not going to be into play at all, and it is going to be going on in LA. Donovan, you want to hit us with your thoughts first on what might happen at the game?
I think it's going to there's not going to be a lot of running, that's for sure. The Bengals defensive line has come out strong this year. The addition of Trey Hendrickson, I hope I said that right.
Go
Um,
Owls.
he's been a fantastic ad for them, and they've just been going crazy on the defensive line part. Their DBs do need some work, although hopefully Eli Apple plays up to his talking.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's gonna be a lot of run game, especially with you have Aaron Donald in the middle, on the Rams side, Trey Hendrickson, and then Cam Fumble Akers. Now I love Cam Akers, especially with how he came back from his Achilles injury, but that man just needs to hold on to the damn ball. I am hoping for a Rams win. I want Stafford to get his ring. I want OBJ to get his ring. Cooper Kupp has had a fantastic season. I even got a matching beard to go with his.
Kind of.
Kind of. It's nice and scrappy like his, a little darker.
Yeah, I'm
But
getting mine too.
yeah. But yeah, just I want those guys to get their rings. Everybody on the Bengals side of the ball is on the younger side. Burrow's in his second season. Chase is in his first season. Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins, they're kind of young. I mean, Tyler Boyd's, I think, in his like fifth or sixth season now. So
Something like that.
something like that. So he's kind of getting up there. They are missing Uzama. I hope I said that right.
No, I think you did.
I'm pretty sure I did. CJ Uzama. I'm not sure if he's going to be playing or not. I believe he's doubtful at this time.
Yeah, that injury that he sustained on 2 Sundays ago didn't look too good. However, I believe the Rams are also going to be missing Tyler Higbee, so that kind of
Yes,
cancels out.
that is true. But I saw someone put up a poll, and it's like, which quarterback would you rather have? Which running back would you rather have? And then which wide receiver group? And I kind of like went through it. I think Joe Burrow is the better quarterback. Joe Mixon's obviously the better running back right now because he can actually hold on to the ball. On the other side, I have to go with Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp and OBJ are both better than Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd. They put in that situation, they put T. Higgins rather than Tyler Boyd. I don't know why they did that. T. Higgins has been great and all, but Tyler Boyd is the number 2 there. T. Higgins has been the number 3, kind of like
I think all 3 groups though are so interchangeable. Like you
They
look at
are.
Matt Stafford, Joe Burrow's talent levels are really par with each other. The backfield of Michelle and Cam Akers versus Joe Mixon and Samaje Perine. Yet the
Former Dolphin.
individual, yes, the former Dolphin special teamer Samaje Perine, which I only found out about like 2 weeks ago.
You're welcome.
Obviously Joe Mixon as an individual is better than those two. However, the groups together, again, you're kind of splitting hairs. Obviously, that one I'm going to lean Cincinnati. However, the receiving game, I wish Robert Woods was playing in this game because then you would undoubtedly,
my God, can you imagine?
undoubtedly, you'll be seeing the top 3 receiving cores: Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins going off against Cooper Kupp, Odell, and Robert Woods. Wow. It's already an amazing Super Bowl with amazing firepower and offense, but can you just imagine if they had Robert Woods available?
That'd be insane. And I think we mentioned to each other that this is the first time in almost 20 years that there's no Tom Brady, no Peyton Manning, no San Francisco 49ers, and no Big Ben.
That sounds better than it is, because Tom Brady did make like what
10?
10, yeah.
He won 7 and lost 2 to the Giants, 1 to the Eagles. So
it was just always Brady.
It's just always Brady. And then every time Brady didn't make a Super Bowl, it was either Big Ben or Peyton Manning besides 1 year. And that
now
one
we'll
year
never see.
And that 1 year that San Francisco made it. And then the 1 year Tom Brady didn't make it, a couple years ago, San Francisco made it again. So that's kind of crazy.
How cool would it have been to see the Colts at their best with Peyton Manning go against the Buccaneers team from last year and Tom Brady? Because we know how well
the Colts.
We know the matchup of Peyton and Brady was always so interesting going over the years in the playoffs in the regular season. But of course, them both being in the AFC side of things, you're not going to see a Super Bowl of that. However, if we just messed around with time a little bit, figured out time travel, we could pluck the Colts and Tampa Bay and put that together.
It is kind of crazy how, technically speaking, the three most dominant quarterbacks of the past 20 years all were in the AFC.
Yeah. And I mean, now look, the AFC is going to look like next year. Next year, we could potentially have Aaron Rodgers come join. However, other than that, you have Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Tua. You have all these offensive quarterbacks that are just phenomenal. Of course, unfortunately, Tua is a joke in this painfully. But you also have like Josh Allen. You have such a talented cast of quarterbacks on one side of things, where if you look at the NFC side of things, let's say Rodgers leaves, Brady's for sure retiring. Is Matt Stafford the best quarterback in the NFC?
I mean, it has to be between him and Russell Wilson.
He could leave. He could leave too.
He could leave too. I was just about to say that.
The rumors are that he would go. There's a connection between him and Washington, the Commanders. Yay!
That's
there's reports today.
Time on that.
The reports came out today that he would be open to moving to Washington, so that'd be interesting. However, you got Matt Stafford, Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson as the best in the NFC, and then a whole lot of they're all right.
And Kyler Murray hasn't really the first half of the season he was a cheat code. The second half of the season, now he was dealing with that ankle injury, I believe it was. And I'm not sure how much that really hampered him, because he's a mobile quarterback. He throws on the run. Now he has a big arm for how little he is. But he fell off a cliff on the second half of the season. That's a big reason that they were a first round exit.
Yeah, and tying things back, that first round exit was to the Los Angeles Rams. So, Donovan, give us a prediction. I want score. I want team. Who do you think, who do you think is going to win the game on Sunday?
So I'm going to give you two predictions. I'm going to give you my prediction, and then I'm going to give you the prediction because Tim the Tap Man made his prediction. So
okay, yes.
So
please.
My prediction is going to be the Rams over the Bengals, 35-34, with the Bengals going for 2 and missing out.
Dude, I'll take that. I'll take that any day of the week.
Because we know how Zach Taylor works. He wants to go for the win. He doesn't want to go for the tie. He doesn't want overtime. He doesn't play for overtime.
Yeah, but what did our boy Tim say?
Our boy Tim the Tap Man.
How many games in a row has he jinxed?
All of the playoffs.
Pretty much. He jinxed all. Go ahead.
He started out with the national championship game in college, saying that Roll Tide, that Alabama was going to win. Obviously, they did not. Then he went on to say that the Cowboys would win. They did not. Who else was it? He then predicted the next round that he said he can't wait to see the 49ers get smacked.
Him and Doc were going back and forth with that, Dr. Disrespect.
Yeah, so then 49ers obviously won. So I think that's like 3 in a row there. And then he's like, oh, y'all think I'm a jinx. And then he went off and listed the next 4 games in which he incorrectly predicted all those games. So that's 7 in a row. And he said the jinx is over. I'm picking the Rams for the Super Bowl. And yeah, so for that, I'm going to switch my prediction, and say that they make that 2-point conversion, win 36-35. And that, I just think that's how the game's going to go. It's going to be Joe Burrow to Samaje Perine.
P. Ryan.
Sorry. I called you Perine when you were in Miami, buddy. Zach Taylor, also a former offensive coordinator for the Miami Dolphins. Another former Miami Dolphin, starting safety, Michael Thomas, who his first ever game was an interception off of the GOAT, Tom Brady, to win the game for Miami.
Yeah, that 24-20 victory back, 7 or 8 years ago now.
Yep.
So for me, so wait, your official prediction is the Rams, but if you had to place money on it, you're going to say the Bengals just because of Tim. Is that what? Do I
Yes.
understand that correctly?
That you are exactly correct. You understood me perfectly.
Okay, good. Okay, so my thoughts. So, like I said, with the offenses, you're really plucking at straws as to who's better. You say Joe Burrow's better. I'll say Matt Stafford's better. Either of us could probably be right any given day. Joe Mixon's
True.
better in the running back core. Cooper Kupp is the best receiver. Jamar Chase is the second best receiver. Odell's the third. T. Higgins / Tyler Boyd, the next two. On defense, you have Super Bowl MVP Von Miller. You have Aaron Donald, first ballot Hall of Famer. Jalen Ramsey, first ballot Hall of Famer, best cornerback in the game. Sorry, X, I love you, but Jalen Ramsey is that dude. He talks his talk, he walks his walk. They have other than that, they still have a very solid defense. Cincinnati, Trey Henderson, owl up, baby, gotta love it. Von Bell.
On Bell.
Yeah, Von Bell.
On Bell
had a great game against Jesse Bates. Great game last week against Kansas City. So really, there's not a lot of differences in these two teams. They do a lot of things well on both sides of the ball. And so it is a very hard decision for me to make. It is a decision that I'm not really hell bent on.
Yeah.
And I know, Donovan, you haven't heard.
Can count the offensive line?
Okay, offensive line Rams 100% is better, without a doubt.
Yeah.
However, I mean, last week against the Chiefs, against Chris Jones, only allowed one sack. Joe Burrow did have to run around a little bit, use his athleticism a little bit. However, just one sack compared to the 9 sacks before. So Cincinnati's defense definitely stepped up last week. 2 weeks ago. So I'm gonna roll with the Tigers. I think Cincinnati's gonna do it. I think they're gonna continue this winning streak, continue this streak that really started with beating Kansas City the first time. The first time they played Kansas City, I predicted they were going to win. Going through the playoffs, I predict them to get to the conference championship. I did predict Kansas City to beat them last time around. However, I expected it to be close. And seeing them beat Kansas City twice, seeing their fight, seeing how they don't care who they're playing against. Joe Burrow is playing outstanding. That offense is playing outstanding. I'm going to give it to them.
I can't fault you for that at all. Like you said, it's such a interchangeable, you can pick straws. I do think the Rams have a overall better defense. They also obviously have the better offensive line, and that's kind of why I was going for them. But like I said before, if I had to put money on it, it's probably going to be the Bengals. It's just like you said, seeing that fight in them, seeing that never quit. I mean, they're the first team to win while giving up 9 sacks they're the first team to give up 9 sacks in a playoff game.
Win.
And they're also the only team to win while giving up, I think it was 7+ sacks. And there's only been 5 such games in the playoffs. Because typically you can't win with an offensive line like that. And this triggers Miami Dolphin fans everywhere. But Joe Burrow is that guy. I told you, he has that it factor. And that's why when people were saying, oh, Justin Herbert is better than Joe Burrow, I'm like, you're on crack. Joe Burrow is a top 3 quarterback right now in this league.
Between those two, you could really toss it up, because I think if you put Justin Herbert on this Bengals team, I think they still get to the position they are. But there's definitely
not.
Well, there's definitely
Absolutely
there's definitely a mental difference between the two. We see Justin Herbert kind of shy away from seeing himself on the big board. And we've never really seen, outside of the play-in game, which we could call it that, between them and the Raiders, we've never seen him have to be in that situation where it's a win and you're bettering your chances to go to the Super Bowl. You're like last week against the Kansas City Chiefs. Bengals are down 21-3, go on to score 20 something unanswered until the Chiefs finally hit the field goal at the end to tie the game. And that fight, that resolve, really resonates with me and really makes me want to lean towards them. And we've seen on the other side with Los Angeles, we saw it personally, Donovan, live with the Tampa Bay Tampa Bay game and the Los Angeles game, which was a phenomenal game. So happy to be able to be there. However, we saw them have a huge lead and we saw them give up that lead. Now, of course, that was then rectified immediately by the fact that Matt Stafford is, a top 10 quarterback in the league, and Cooper Kupp is this season a
Yikes.
top two receiver, and he's not two. So that eventually did help them out. However, the fight that Cincinnati has shown in the 2 games in a row that we've seen Los Angeles really be weak at certain times, they were kind of lucky to get out of that game last week against San Francisco. It wasn't pretty outside of Cooper, outside of the receiving game. It wasn't pretty for Los Angeles. Matt Stafford should have had 2 interceptions. He just threw it to center field, and Jaquesty Tart dropped that one interception. And if he catches that interception, if he drops an interception, we could have seen, our boy Mike McDaniel in the Super Bowl right now. We'd still be waiting for him as a head coach. So all these things combined, I'm not very passionate about it, but I will be rooting for the Bengals. And I do also think that the Bengals are going to win the Super Bowl. Do you have any final thoughts on this matter?
I think what I'll be curious to see in this is if Jalen Ramsey shadows a receiver or if he kind of just stays to one side of the field. Because you're super high on Jamar Chase, and I think he's a great receiver. But
don't compare him to Waddle, please.
I'm not comparing him to
Waddle. I don't want to sit
I'm,
here and tear down Waddle a little bit.
I'm comparing. We're not tearing down Waddle ever.
No, we're
Shut
not.
your face. I'm comparing him to his own receivers. Is he that much better than T. Higgins or Tyler Boyd, where Jalen Ramsey has to shadow him?
Well,
because we saw that when Jamar Chase was locked up, we saw T. Higgins go off. So,
sorry, go ahead.
So are we going to see Jalen Ramsey shadow him? Like Jalen Ramsey has shadowed top receivers before. Now, obviously, Jamar Chase is a top receiver, but is he that much better where he requires a shadow of the one of the best corners in the game, or are they going to be okay with trying to scheme up coverages over that defense or over that offense?
So the fact that you're asking that question in the first place shows how good the receiving core of Cincinnati is, because Jamar Chase is undoubtedly the rookie of the year. So far in the season, he's had 81 catches, 1,450 yards, and 13 touchdowns. The dude is absolutely electric. Actually, I believe that's just regular season numbers. I don't think that combined with the postseason numbers he's had so far. And he's had a pretty good postseason so far. Obviously, not the extent of Cooper Kupp, but knowing those stats, knowing what he's done this season, knowing what he's done in the postseason, the fact that you're asking that question shows how good the Cincinnati receiving core is. That you do have to ask the question: what are they going to do with Jalen Ramsey? What are they going to do with handling Jamar Chase and the rest of that receiving core? And I think that gives Cincinnati a considerable edge going against that defense, because you have to figure out what to do with one of your best defensive players on the field. I'm sure it's something that's going to change throughout the game. I'm sure there's going to be parts in the game where Jalen Ramsey is hovering over where Jamar Chase is. However, I'm sure there's going to be points in the game where Nick Scott is going to be lined up against Jamar Chase, and Jamar Chase is going to probably have his way with a not as good corner. So LA really has to figure out what they want to do, and Cincinnati could take advantage there.
Now, if they have 2 weeks to pretty much prepare for this game, and you can go over the tape and look at, okay, what kind of formations do the Bengals like, where Jamar Chase is like the go-to guy on this, or T. Higgins is the go-to guy on this, or Tyler Boyd is the go-to guy on this. Like there are certain obviously plays or formations where there's the guy, there's the first read, the second read, the third read, no matter what kind of route that they're running. Now, obviously, there's formations where there's a different route for every formation, and there's some formations, go on and on. Now, Ramsey is a smart guy. he's going to be able to see, and so are the defensive staff with the Rams. They're going to be able to kind of, I think that's what I was talking about before, is kind of like they're scheming up against this offense, and they're going to be able to cover, do certain cover packages against certain things, and have, like you said, Ramsey shadow on some plays and just have him play one side of the field on others.
It is probably what it's going to be, and it's going to be a very interesting matchup. While you were saying that, I just realized I never gave a score prediction. I'm going to say 31-27. I think Cincinnati gets a touchdown with less than 2 minutes to go. That puts them up by 4. And I think Los Angeles drives down the field, gets to first and goal. And I'm gonna call a Jesse Bates interception in the end zone.
Jesse Bates
touchback, yes.
Why not
Touchback.
Eli Apple? Okay, if you
Eli
guys,
Apple is going to get torn to shreds by whether it be Odell or obviously what's his
just
name
in case you Cooper Kupp.
Cooper Kupp, there you go. There you go.
And Van Jefferson. Let's not forget about Van
Go
Jefferson.
Gators.
So if you guys don't know by now, Eli Apple, after
Sucks.
he sucks regardless. But throughout the season, he's been trash talking his former teams in the Giants and in the Saints. He is also right after the Chiefs game, he is tagging Tyreek Hill, like nothing prompted him to do this. He tagged Tyreek Hill and McCall Hardman in tweets, telling them that they're little babies, that he's going to buy them Super Bowl tickets so they can go to the Super Bowl. Not like they haven't been there the past 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, he's acting like they've never seen the Super Bowl before. Buddy, he has more Super Bowl appearances than you have friggin' years of being a starter.
Yeah,
like,
we traded Mahomes, Jackson Mahomes and Brittany Mahomes, and ended up getting Eli Apple. I'd much rather I'd much rather have Eli Apple than those two clowns.
Because Eli Apple's going to get shut up by this receiving core.
God forbid they win.
Nothing.
God forbid they win and like he just doesn't shut up. I mean, I think that's going to happen. I want that to happen. But God forbid they win. He just gets into his head even more.
Oh, so you want the Bengals to win? I
do. And like, I was explaining this. I don't know if I said this on the pod here last week, but I said it on FAU Radio that as a Ravens fan, because we were talking about the Dolphins. Dolphins obviously have my first priority, have my first loyalty. However, I do very much enjoy the Ravens, and that Ravens game down here, I was at odds as to what jersey I wanted to wear because the Dolphins were in such a bad place. It's kind of ironic because of how the season ended up and how the game ended up going. I did decide to wear a Dolphins jersey. However, the Ravens were at a point where I was like, is it even worth rooting for the Dolphins? So with those loyalties to the Ravens stated, it doesn't feel real to me yet that little brother in the division, Cincinnati, is stepping up to where they're at. They got into the playoffs as the division winner over Baltimore. But sitting here, like, I don't really care that much. And this is something that I've talked to Andrew about, as he's a Bears fan. Like, if the Lions were to do something similar, he wouldn't really have so much disdain for him because, little brother has never really succeeded. And now you see him move up in the world, especially, for Cincinnati, a former Dolphins staff member as head coach there, and a very likable roster. Joe Burrow is very likable. Jamar Chase, seeing him cry after the AFC Championship game is just so cool to see. So I don't really have a reason to hate Cincinnati outside of the fact I'm a Ravens fan.
It's not really like this the Bengals and Pittsburgh, where they had such a physical like rivalry going on for a few years there, and even dating back further than that. I see now in the Dolphins division, there isn't a single team that I would even like to see win a game. Like the Patriots having so much success, they were probably I probably hate the Patriots the least out of all those teams, but seeing how much success that they've had over the last, I know that's a bold statement there. I hate the Patriots the least. Like they're the Bills, they had our number for so long.
Yeah.
And like even dating back to like 2012, like they've had our number. Cam Wake even said at one point, they're just a team built to beat us. And that was back when the Bills were bad, and they had Tyrod Taylor starting and EJ Manuel, like that bad. And I mean, we have a whole JETS suck chant, so that just explains that.
Oh yeah.
And then we have miserable Jets fans in group chats that think that their first round wide receiver is better than Jalen Waddle.
Oh, Marcelo. The dumb things he says, we could have a whole episode based off that. It's just reading a scroll of evidence of dumb things he said.
I'm not even sure if you realize this, but that was the second time I mentioned one of his comments. The first time is when I said that someone said that the Dolphins would have the same offense as the Jets, because the Jets have a former 49ers offensive coordinator as their offensive coordinator. Yeah. So Mike McDaniel isn't like that. He will build around the Dolphins' weapons or lack thereof. Anyway, back to the Super Bowl. It's just I lost track of what I was saying. Go ahead.
Well, it's okay, because I think we've covered the Super Bowl enough. To the extent we just started going off a tangent multiple different times there. You think Los Angeles is going to win? I think Cincinnati is going to win. I think no matter what, it's going to be a very entertaining Super Bowl. Hopefully, it doesn't disappoint. But next Sunday it'll be fun. Can't wait to see it. I'm just.
You want to move over to the other hires?
Well,
we haven't gone over the other hires.
Oh, we forgot to do that earlier, but we'll do that in a second. There was a little talk in the group chat. Tyrell said doing something for the Super Bowl. What could we do for the Super Bowl? Because I wouldn't be able to host all of us at my place.
Yeah, I wouldn't Haley would do that.
I don't know if Haley would want to, or if she could. Because she has a couch and 2 chairs. Let's just say at the very least it's me, you, Tyrell, Haley. That's 4.
Maybe Nia, Adam, Andrew.
Oh my gosh. See, for that we would actually need like a proper location. We can try to plan this out. I'm kind of just spitballing here. I'm sure that's something you would be interested in at the very least.
Yes, I am.
Okay, so we'll figure that out later outside of the call here. But yeah, going into I meant to be the Brian Flores talk, but let's first I'm first going to go over all the head coaching hires that got on so far. Of course, there's only one left, which is the last one's the party, the Saints, when they found out they were going to be without a head coach going into next year. Going into that list now, the Bears hired defensive coordinator of the Indianapolis Colts, Matt Eberflus. Broncos hired offensive coordinator of the Green Bay Packers, Nathaniel Hackett. Giants, of course, took Brian Dable from us. The arguments with Tyrell was fun.
I'm not too mad about that.
Yeah. Now in retrospect, I'm happy we got our guy at the end of the day. So Giants got Brian Dable. Raiders got Josh McDaniels to finally sign a contract to leave the New England Patriots as offensive coordinator.
That's great. Honestly, when Jay told us that he was going to be head coach, I'm like, first of all, did they even interview anybody else? I didn't even know he interviewed. They kind of just offered him the job off rip without even interviewing him. Like, he was putting together a staff before the interview. That can also be added to the whole Brian Flores situation later.
Yeah.
And he's putting together a really good staff. I'm really interested to see how that team does, coming off a really strong season despite all the controversy that has gone on between John Gruden and
Ruggs, Gruden,
and
Damon Arnett.
Arnett. I was like, is it Arnett or Arnett?
It's Arnett. I'm pretty sure it's Arnett.
Yeah,
but for the Raiders,
in there for some reason.
The Raiders, I thought they were the top spot. I thought Miami was a close second or third. However, the Raiders had made the playoffs last year. It's a very difficult division, so that is a negative point there. However, they have some money to spend. They already won their division, or not won the division, but they made the playoffs last season. So I thought it was a really attractive hire. Josh McDaniels as an offensive head coach hopefully can build up Derek Carr there to see the success we saw with Derek Carr, especially earlier in the season. So Josh McDaniels to the Raiders. Vikings, it's not official yet because it can't be, because he's going to be playing or going to be coaching the Super Bowl. However, offensive current coordinator of the Los Angeles Rams, Kevin O'Connell, is going to be taking over there with the Vikings. after the conversation with Jim Harbaugh eventually fell through. The
Mhm.
Jaguars have hired former Eagles head coach Doug Peterson, of course, former Super Bowl winning head coach Doug Peterson,
Yes.
which it's the complete opposite of Urban Meyer. They accept the fact they're both experienced. This is a guy that has experience in the NFL, has had control of the locker rooms. So hopefully that turns out better for Jacksonville. The Dolphins, of course, as we previously went over, got our young stud in Mike McDaniel. And some breaking news,
Sir.
not necessarily breaking news anymore. It's probably breaking news like 2 hours ago. But the Texans have officially hired Lovie Smith, which is not a good hire. However, I think we believe the
That
Texans
is
are going to be
a
tanking.
terrible hire.
Yeah, he's had stints with both the Chicago Bears and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that really haven't gone anywhere.
Now he
So
did make a Super Bowl with the Bears, where he ended up losing uh against the Colts, I believe it was back in
yeah,
06.
was he the head coach for them
Um,
then? Was
yes.
really
He coached for them for 10 years, I believe it was 02 to 2012. And then
okay?
he coached the Bucks from 14 to 16, I believe it was.
Yeah,
Don't quote me on this. I briefly looked at it yesterday, and I'm just kind of go off my photogenic memory.
right,
Um,
right. But I think we can agree
uh,
that
yeah.
Lovie Smith is the worst hire of the bunch. Outside of
Mhm.
Mike McDaniel, because I know you would have stated that. Who do you see as the best hire of the bunch?
Honestly, it's I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna do a three-way tie here.
No, 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 no,
Um,
no, no. I'm gonna stop you right now. Give me the best hire. One, go.
one.
Do, do,
Do,
do,
do,
do.
do, do,
Fine.
do.
If you're not ready yet,
Josh
keep
McDaniels.
Josh McDaniels. Okay, I'm gonna go with Brian Dable for the New York Giants. For me, I'll
That
give
was in
my
your
reasoning
top three.
first because he's getting something similar in his quarterback there with the Giants with what's his name? What's Daniel
He
Jones? Daniel
Daniel
Jones.
Jones is very similar build and athletic
He's
ability
very
to
similar.
Josh Allen.
He has the arm, he has the athletic ability, and he's very unrefined, which is what we saw with Josh Allen in his first year there. He's got the big arms, he's got the big body, he can move. However, he did lead the league in turnovers not this last season, but the season before. He's been very inconsistent. And to bring in a guy like Brian Dable, who has worked with quarterback, is an offensive minded coach, which of course is working in the NFL as things stand. I think that'd be really good hire for the New York Giants, and hopefully can help Daniel Jones' development. Please, why is Josh McDaniels the best hire?
I just think I mean, he is a previous head coach who has learned from his mistakes, in my opinion. He's putting together one of the best staffs I have seen in a while. Just off rip, he's putting together an all-star staff. I can't remember the names off the top of my head, but every single time I've seen a hire, I'm like, okay, well, that's a W. Like, and he does command the best of his players now. um, I will say if he thought Mac Jones was a next Tom Brady, he wouldn't have left because he didn't leave last time. Sorry, just had to stab Patriots real quick. But moving on, I really like the Matt Eberflus hire in for the Bears. He did a wonderful job for the Colts for a few years there, transforming that defense, a young defense, into a consistently top 10, top 5 at times defense. They carried that team for a few years now. Hence the reason they went out and got Phillip Rivers and Carson Wentz this year. They're trying to make that hard push for a Super Bowl because they do have the weapons on the defensive side. And they were a quarterback away a couple years, in my opinion. If they had Andrew Luck healthy, they probably could have made it there. Andrew Luck retired. You got the greatest backup. Sorry, I can't even say it without choking. Um, don't give me that look. Jacoby Brissett for a year, and then you brought in Phillip Rivers trying to make that push. He was older and washed up at
You say
that
the
point.
greatest backup in Jacoby Brissett?
I couldn't say it. I was choking. I couldn't. He's
So
horrible.
trash. So trash.
So trash.
So, but I'm gonna jump in here with that hire and use this to spin into our next conversation. I don't think that's a good hire. I think
You don't think Eberflus is a good hire?
I do not. I think he could be a good head coach. However, for multiple reasons. Young quarterbacks usually do not do well with defensive-minded head coaches. Nonetheless,
okay. That's
first time defensive head coaches. So this offensive coordinator hire is going to be very important. I'm not sure who he did. However, let's say he hits out of the park with his offensive coordinator hire. That guy could have a job in a year or two, and now you're right back to the well trying to figure out the offense with a whole brand new guy. Whereas if you go out and get an offensive-minded guy for that young quarterback, he's there. Unless you fire him, he's not moving on for another team. But let's say you were to move on for a defensive-minded coach. This is where I'll tie in our next conversation. Why not Brian Flores? Why not a guy that has had experience, has gotten a minimal roster in the Miami Dolphins to success, gotten them to media attention, gotten us recognized as a big team? And there is a legitimate case for Brian Flores for his complaints. Mike McDaniel, before Lovie Smith was hired, Mike McDaniel was the first minority coach. Now, he doesn't look like it. We all know that. He looks like every other white guy. He looks like him and Rodrigo Blankenship could be like brothers. Like he looks like Marcelo, even kind of. So
yeah,
he very much looks like he's from the Isles of Caucasus. However, there is definitely a concern as to the lack of minority head coaching hires, especially if you compare the success that some of them had. First and foremost, Brian Flores, of course. If you're gonna go out and hire a defensive-minded head coach, and you're in a position with the Chicago Bears that your team kind of needs a rehaul, you're probably going to look to offload Khalil Mack because his contract is huge and has not really done much for the team. Robert Quinn had an incredible season. However, he's eating up, I believe, $18 million. And Allen Robinson is all but likely going to be leaving. So your offense is really just a rookie quarterback, David Montgomery, who really got injured last year, and Darnell Mooney, which shout out Darnell Mooney for Andrew because, that's his boy. But if you're going to go...
Darnell Mooney is a great guy.
If you're going to go the defensive route, why not go bring in a Brian Flores, who with Miami...
I can give you a reason.
2 years. Well, let me say my spiel, and then you can enter in with your spiel. 19 wins in 2 seasons. He was labeled, hard to work with. However, him being hard to work with was him following the rules. Him saying, "I'm not going to purposely tank. I'm not going to go out and meet with somebody." Tom Brady ends up being before it is legally allowed to. I don't want the fallback to come on my team. If you're a guy like Brian Flores, you fought hard to get to the position where you are. He's from a bad area of New York, a low income area in New York, and everything he's gotten, he's fought for with hard work, determination, and being true to himself. And what would not be true to himself would be allow a team to tank and go out and do something illegal, like try to bring in a guy in the illegal tampering period. So if you're going to do that, why not Brian Flores? And then on the other side, let's say you do go offensive. How on earth has Eric Bieniemy not got a single job? If you want to say, it's because of Andy Reid, or if you want to say, it's because of Patrick Mahomes, he's the only guy under Andy Reid, the offensive coordinator, that has called the plays. Matt Nagy didn't call the plays before him. And if you want to look at the success at part of it with, the guys above him are obviously so great. Okay, so Brian Dable had Josh Allen, had the head coach there in Buffalo at his disposal. You look at the Broncos hiring Nathaniel Hackett. You have Matt LaFleur, who is a disciple of the Shanahan coaching tree. You have Aaron Rodgers, who is one of the best quarterbacks of all time. You say, okay, well, with the Raiders, Josh McDaniels, he's coaching under Belichick. How often do Patriots assistant coaches eventually go out and work? How much of the credit deserves to go to Josh McDaniels versus Bill Belichick? And we have seen Josh McDaniels have a head coaching job and absolutely fumble it. So maybe he's learned from his ways. However, that's no guarantee there. Kevin O'Connell, again, very similar situation to Eric Bieniemy, has the offensive-minded head coach that succeeded and has a good quarterback there. So again, you can say the very same thing about him. Doug Peterson, I that hire I'm okay with. Bring some stability to that locker room, bring some stability to that team. So it makes sense. However, I'm looking at this list and saying I don't understand how Brian Flores hasn't got a job. And I don't understand how Eric Bieniemy hasn't got a job.
I was gonna say, as far as the Bears go, as much as I like that fit for Brian Flores because they have a great defense and he can transform that into a transcendent defense, he hasn't been able to work with young quarterbacks. His biggest success offensively was when he had Ryan Fitzpatrick starting over both Josh Rosen and Tua.
This is true. However, he wanted somebody like Justin Herbert, who is athletically gifted, who has the arm. Both of those are true of Justin Fields.
That is also true. And but maybe they just saw something there that they didn't like. Now they're not listed in his lawsuit, so obviously he didn't feel like anything was racially motivated there. And like he said, that I want to clarify this for anybody who hasn't really read the lawsuit. The Dolphin situation is not a racial situation. That is strictly Ross telling him that he wanted to pay him $100,000 to tank every single game in $100,000 per game that he lost back in 2019 when they were tanking for Tua, which ended up being tanking for
Burrow.
Burrow. And they actually offered 3 first-round picks to move up to get Burrow. Cincinnati smartly declined that.
Yeah.
I would have offered my next 10 for Burrow.
Or just take Justin Herbert and not give up anybody.
See, the thing about no one was high on Justin Herbert going into that draft.
Yeah.
No one was.
Hindsight's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
Hindsight's a beautiful thing. Going back to that game though, or that draft, no one was really high on Herbert, and it goes back to his leadership, and that's my thing that separates Joe Burrow from the rest of the pack is his leadership. He has that it factor. Now Brian Flores did want a star quarterback. So does Ross. So what did Ross do in 2020? He invited Tom Brady to go on his yacht. He also invited Brian Flores to come on the yacht. However, at that time, it was the illegal tampering period, and Brady was still under contract with the Patriots. Obviously, Bill Belichick is still good friends with Brian Flores. Because he texts him congratulations and stuff on jobs he didn't get. And he's not going to sit there and tamper. He's not now. Obviously, he didn't learn from Belichick. He doesn't like cheating. Sorry, just gonna keep stabbing when I can.
Keep on digging.
Yeah, keep on digging that hole for the Patriots.
I'm sure there's I'm sure there's 6 Super Bowls haven't cured that.
Yeah, no, yeah. And just Flores. So he wanted to meet on the yacht, and Flores was on the yacht. And when he found out that it was a meeting with Tom Brady, he walked off the yacht. He said, "I'm not doing this." And because of that, Tom Brady actually chose the Buccaneers over the Dolphins.
Yeah.
Sad face, because Brian Flores didn't want to meet with him. Now, did that scenario probably wasn't brought to Brady's attention correctly? He probably thought it was okay at that time, or Brady doesn't care about really cheating. We all know that. I mean, deflated balls and everything. Tuck rule and everything.
The tuck rule is not his fault. He wasn't the one making the call.
I know. But deflated balls were his.
Allegedly.
I'm
still kind of teetering on that one.
Okay. Anyway, so I'm not sure if it was relayed that Brady even knew if it was a tampering period or not.
He knew. He's smart enough.
He is smart enough. I can't really say he can claim that he didn't know, but I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt, being the GOAT and all. and that's a reason that he didn't come to Miami. Supposedly, sources close to Brady.
Right.
It's because of Flores.
Right.
And it's because of that situation with Flores. Now, beyond that, they just said there was nothing really about the 2021 season. But it did seem as before the season started that they were clearing cap space for Deshaun Watson, as we discussed earlier. Getting rid of Kyle Van Noy, getting rid of Eric Flowers, getting rid of Ted Karras, getting rid of a few other.
Van Noy.
I already said Van Noy, but
Oh,
it cleared out some cap space to go ahead and bring in. It conveniently was the perfect amount that it would have been able to fit Watson's contract.
yeah. I
And
believe
still
Deshaun Watson would have had to be paid something between 30 to 35. I think it was like 34 point something, like specifically. I think
and
that's what have been. However, like you said,
yeah,
Ryan Flores wasn't willing to play ball there, and that's what did cost him his job here in Miami. And
yeah,
like I said, he got fired for doing the right thing at the end of the day. Now,
yes,
sitting here, if he had gone through with that meeting with Tom Brady, would any of us be complaining? No,
no,
absolutely not. But I can 100% respect the fact that he didn't do it because of his own moral code, that he didn't want to do something knowing it was illegal.
exactly. And I respect the hell out of him for that as well. And just to kind of continue on, it's just both Ross and Flores has said that he was fired for collaboration. Now, Ross didn't specify on what kind of collaboration issues that was, but obviously, according to Brian Flores' lawsuit, uh, we now know at least Brian Flores' side. And now there is three sides to every story. There's one side, the other side, and then the truth. And whatchamacallit? And so hopefully we get the truth out of all this. I am leaning more towards Flores' side on this, just because. Can I curse real quick?
Sorry, no, go ahead.
Fuck Steve Ross.
I didn't at first. I didn't realize what you said. Like I didn't realize that's what you did say, but it's already out there. Whatever.
So yeah, screw Steve Ross, and the law. Gonna go into the lawsuit really quickly and then wrap it up. The rest of the lawsuit pretty much is that he was texted by Bill Belichick mistakenly. It was supposed to be going to Brian Dable, not Brian Flores. Congratulations on getting the Giants job. Before the second interview with Dable and before Flores' first interview. And that was a major trigger for Flores. He felt disrespected and he felt embarrassed, as he said multiple times over his interviews on Get Up This Morning, CNN, and CBS. He has said that was frustrating, disappointing, and disappointing, and embarrassing. I said disappointing twice. And he, so he actually filed the lawsuit prior, or he didn't file the lawsuit, but he got with his lawyers prior to that interview that day or that Thursday. And he decided to go to the interview, try to give them the benefit of the doubt to see if he can actually change their minds. And during that interview, he felt like it was similar to back in 2019 when he interviewed for the Broncos job, where they did not really go there to interview him. They went there to check off the box.
Yeah.
For
So I feel really bad for him. Like he got fired first of all from Miami for doing everything right. You know, you think you have the opportunity with New York to get the job there, and it is because of the Rooney Rule.
Really good job in New York.
It is really because of the Rooney Rule why he had to be interviewed in the first place. You know, the rule is since 2003 you have to involve a minority somewhat in your head coaching search, and everything's just really gone against him. Your head coach for the Miami Dolphins, who's just terribly run organization, top to bottom. He was the one stability with the Dolphins. He was the one driving force to help build this team. And then they let him go because he did his job. He crossed T's, dotted I's. He did everything he was supposed to do, gets fired from Miami. And I genuinely thought that it would have been better for New York to go out and get Brian Flores than Brian Dable. I still think Brian Dable was an excellent signing. However, I think it could have been even better to go out and get Brian Flores. So now I hope he goes out and gets the New Orleans Saints job, because that is the one job left available. And the Saints have said that they plan on doing a thorough, in-depth look at both him and Eric Bieniemy. And whoever does get that job, it is going to be a very tough task. The Saints are negative 60 to 70 in the cap that they have to cut off their wages for next season, which is going to be very difficult to do. Your best quarterback that is currently on contract on the roster is Taysom Hill. Jameis Winston can go on and move on to whatever team he so chooses. And if I'm Jameis, I'm doing that. I'm probably looking up to Pittsburgh and saying, hey, you guys need a quarterback? Like
100%.
Or maybe back 100%. To Tampa. That'd be kind of funny if you did that.
That actually would be funny, but I don't think Bruce Arians is a big fan.
I think Bruce Arians still might retire.
I think so too.
Yeah, but the Saints are in just such a mess of a situation right now that whoever gets that job, it is going to be very difficult. However, I do hope either Brian Flores or Eric Bieniemy gets it, because Brian Flores has definitely been shafted by Miami Dolphins, other teams in the NFL, and the fact that Eric Bieniemy still has yet to get a head coaching job is absolutely ridiculous.
That's beyond me at this point.
Yeah. So I hope one of those two guys gets it. He did turn down
the Texans job last year. He did turn down that job. Yeah. However, that was the worst job. Then no one wanted
in
that
recent
job.
years.
That it was such a bad job that they ended up hiring Baltimore's wide receivers coach, who had one of the worst wide receiving cores in the NFL.
Yeah,
and he got a head coaching job.
Respect David Culley, because he did do it. He did a really good job with that with the Houston Texans head coaching job, considering everything there. He did his best there. Now, obviously, Lovie Smith's going to get the job there. So, good luck to Dave. Good luck to Lovie Smith. Good luck to whoever gets that New Orleans Saints job, because it is going to be a very, very, very difficult task. But thank you everybody very much for listening today. Donovan, thank you very much for coming back on the show. I also just want to briefly talk about, I was fortunate enough to commentate the FAU Southern Mississippi game over on Saturday. That was an absolutely phenomenal time. Donovan, thank you for watching the stream there. Some technical issues didn't allow us to to broadcast over the radio. However, I still streamed it here on my YouTube channel, assuming this is going on my YouTube channel. So if you like to hear me commentate, you can go ahead and watch the live stream. It's not edited. It is literally just straightforward what it was. So that was a lot of fun. Me and my friend Nick had a great time doing that, and very fortunate to be in that position. And hopefully we'll be able to commentate more basketball games before the end of the season. This Tuesday, today's Monday, so tomorrow I'll be back on my radio show, JK Productions FAU edition. And I will hopefully be bringing on two guests over there, as well as a guest appearing on a first time show over there with FAU. So I'm very excited for the work I get to do tomorrow. Very excited for this show. Thank you again for Donovan having it. Thank you for Donovan for coming on. Really excited for the Super Bowl. Donovan, of course, here says that he thinks the Rams are going to win. I'm going to lean with the Bengals, but it really could go either way. So I'm really excited for that. Really excited for just this next week as a whole. It's a big week for me as a whole. So thank you all very much for watching. Thank you, Donovan, for being part of this. I hope everybody has a great rest of your day. Take care, everybody.
Can I just say one more thing?